Oh, hey! Today we're going to be talking about the very first appearance of Astro Boy here on GAIJINGUY. Hey, y'all. I wanted to say a few things before we got started today. First of all, I want to thank everyone for all the wonderful support this channel has gotten so far. If you like what you see here, you also might want to think about checking out The Law of Equivalent Exchange. It's a podcast I do with Deconstructing Comics Tim Young about the comic version of Fullmetal Alchemist. Also, check out the Manga verse fanzine that I do for the National Fan Fantasy Federation. Links are below in the description. Cheers! Today we're looking at Tetsuwan Atomu, Mighty Atom. Astro Boy, as this very special character is known, not a deep dive, just a look at the very first chapter of Atomu as he appeared in Kobunsha's monthly magazine for kids, Shōnen. This one published April 1952. These were loaned to me by the very generous Mr. Fujita as part of his collection of first. It was a special oversized issue, as you can see, and many such issues are released even now in certain times of the year in relation to the Japanese calendar. January, when kids have that New Year's or Toshidama cash burning a hole in their pockets. Summer, of course, for summer vacation, and also spring vacation, the end of the school year, beginning of a new school year, when kids have more time on their hands to read frivolous entertainment before they have to chain themselves back to the eternal grind until their wills are shattered and their bodies and minds are remolded into... Oh, sorry, lost my chain of thought. Where was I? Robots. Yes, robots. And one of the most iconic robot characters, and probably the character most identified with its creator, the Tezuka Osamu, spent most of the early half of his career and much of the latter half involved with manga, anime, or some kind of project related to Ato, which began as Atomu Taishi, which translates as Ambassador Atom, but for some reason, the Tez chose Captain Atom for his title in English, which would have been a great name for a Golden Age radio show. Captain Atom, brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil with lanolin. An aside here, if my viewers ever want a whole different media to get into, old-time radio has some great stuff. I mostly listen to the detective, science fiction, and the horror stuff, but there's a bit of everything. Not all of it ages well, but a lot of it is fantastic and has direct ties to comics. And now, back to our scheduled program. Captain Atom. Yes, you might know that the captain came first. You might have seen the iconic image of the taller version of Atom that we know and love, marching in front of the boxy, old-fashioned robots. No offense. But there are a few things that you might not know about this predecessor. Number one, he has the same origin story as Mighty Atom. Dr. Tenma's kid Tobio was hot rodding around and got himself killed in a car accident, and so Tenma tried to replace him with a robot replica. Not creepy at all. Kind of a Pinocchio story. But when Tobio 2.0 doesn't grow or age, Tenma kicks him out, rejects him. So what we really have is a Frankenstein's monster story. Except, unlike Frankenstein's monster or Pinocchio, Captain Atom knows the difference between right and wrong. So, Tenma may be a delusional bastard, but his morality program works great. Well, he probably outsourced it. Number two, it's a counter-Earth story with the population of our Earth leaving the planet just before it explodes. Way to go, humanity. As the generational ships, separated by nation by the way, head out to find the counter-Earth, which you think would only take a year that they stayed in the same place, but I don't know. Their populations evolve into zero gravity. Basically, their ears are bigger, and that's it. And they finally land on Earth 2, which has the exact same continents as Earth 1 and the same cultures, and Earth 2 versions of everyone as well, but with normal-sized ears. Number 3, Dr. Tenma, who is only on Earth 2 as far as I can tell, is the bad guy. He decides to shrink the other Earthers against their will, as the population has suddenly doubled, and that means twice as many mouths to feed. And so he has these armed Gestapo squads shooting other Earthers with shrink bullets. So, not cool. Number 4, Adam isn't even the main character. He's in less than half of the story. It mostly focuses on Tamao and Kenichi, the goofus and gallant of early Tez. The Captain Adam story was one complete story with an ending, and it ran in Kobunsha's monthly boys magazine, Shōnen. Right before it ended, Shōnen editor-in-chief asked the Tez to do a new story and focus on Adam, as he was quite popular. He suggested making Adam less robotic and more human with emotions, and make him a character that kids could feel they could be friends with. Now, I have no idea where to find the Atom Taishi's stories in print. Others might know. But in the first digital collection, in Japanese though, the whole Taishi stories are included, and the following Mighty Atom stories are collected in order. Though we are missing out on all the great splash pages that were in the original Shōnen mags, we do get the stories as they were published in order, unlike with all the other Atom collections that have come out over the years that Tezuka himself had a hand in editing. If you want to see some of those splashes, there are the Tetsuwan Atomu original, this book, and the Tetsuwan Atomu Daizukan books, which I don't have that one, unfortunately. But I do have this one, and it is huge. Now, are you ready to dive into the April 1952 issue of Kobunsha's Shōnen? You are? Well, let me warm things up a bit by showing you some earlier issues of Shōnen for a little bit of context. Here's the second issue from 1946. Simple, thin, small A5 size. Horizontal text is often read from right to left. Though if you look on the back here, you can see 3 ads for pencils, 1 ad for crayons. By the way, most sponsors don't like to share ad space with their rivals, but I guess they did things different back then. But notice we have ads reading both ways. We've got some right to left, O-sama, right? Sensei, right? Mitsubishi Enpitsu. And then we have left to right. Miyama Enpitsu, Chikyu Enpitsu, Surasura Kake, Du. Okay? So, Japanese kids were totally fine with this. Did not freak them out at all. It's this kind of flexibility that's built into the Japanese language. Not only do you have one writing system of brushstroke-based logographs, called kanji, literally Chinese characters, that have different readings based on context and combinations. You have 2 original syllabaries, like hiragana, katakana, that evolved from the Chinese characters. And you have romaji, which is the alphabet when used to represent Japanese words, plus numbers, which have several ways of being pronounced and are used to represent words like yoroshiku. I got pretty good at deciphering number code during the pokeberu, the pocket bell or pager era of the mid to late 90s. These are all used interchangeably on a daily basis, and no one bats one freaking eyelid. That is the flexibility of the Japanese mind in reading mode. Now, these are the same folks that the majority of which are absolutely convinced that they are incapable of learning a foreign language, when in fact, they are more primed than most other cultures to take on the task. The power of the mind to both free and bind, my friends. Linguistics lesson concluded. Let's do the flip through I promised. Here's the second issue from 1946. Simple, thin, small. Now, how many comics would you expect to find in this monthly? If you answered just one, then you are correct. Let's go ahead and take a peek. So we have tons of illustrated adventure stories. There's one about whaling. Yeah, let's not get into that too deeply. Here's the index. And here is the illustrated Takarajima. Notice the reading order. Treasure Island, Stevenson, right there. And this is illustrated by Komatsuzaki Shigeru. I'm going to talk about him a little later. This is 1 year before Sakai Shijima and the Tez's homage from the following year, 1947, Shin Takurajima. So it has stories. Lots of stories. It's got, there's some more stories. It's got how-to article. There's some botany, I suppose. And then it has this one comic, Kei-chan Tachi, the Kei-chans. Okay? It's 5 different characters. Kan-chan, Kin-chan, Kei-chan, Konko, and Kunko. So, 3 boys, a girl, a dog. And they are, their name starts with K, so they are the Kei-chan. All right? And this is done by Matsushita Ichiro. The pen name of Matsushita Ichiro, he was mentored by satirical cartoonist giant Hitezawa Rakuten. He was mentored by him himself, Rakuten himself, at the Rakuten Manga Studio Art School. What else we got? So this little gag, humor strip. Let's see. It's got the numbers, order of reading to make that clear. Add some more stories. How to throw a baseball. Another story with animal action. Okay. As you can see, mostly fiction or real life stories. We do have a little 4-panel comic here. Looks like that helicopter is in trouble. And I guess we're making fun of heavy people now. So, and this is what I found eminently interesting, English lessons, which is usually what you want when you're reading a boys comic. But you know what? They had to keep it educational so that the parents wouldn't, complain that their kids are only reading junk. So, but it has some basic English here. Is this a cup? Is it? Is it a cup? Yes, it is. That's how I read these texts. Is this a cap? No, it is not. It is a hat. That's right. So we got some puzzle, more stories, and so I think you get a good idea of Shōnen. It's a little later issue. I think this is actually the issue after. It's got stories about art, right? Which is fascinating. I don't think you'd ever see anything like this in a boys' magazine today, talking about Michelangelo's David. It's got fiction, real life stories, poetry, science stories. Very positive. We got some folk tales, legends, what have you. Now, if you notice this is going from left to right. So already some change is happening here. But animals is a big theme. Yep, English. Gotta have it. They're still asking, what is this? It is a cup. I guess not enough people understood what a cup was last time. Here we are, the Kei-chan Tachi, left to right. Isn't that interesting? The Romaji, as I mentioned. You know? So I find it. This time, the dog gets third billing and the girl gets last billing. Not cool, folks. Not cool. So, anyway. Actually, you know, very solid layout. Very solid comic. We have the continuance of, this time left to right, Takarajima, Treasure Island. This one. Getting into it. Some quizzes. More fiction. More ads. Okay. We still have the right to left Mitsubishi, and then the left to right Miyama Enbitsu. Right to left Osama Crayon. Left to right Chikyu Enbitsu. Right? Now let's look at the April 1952-ish. Same A5 size here, but much thicker, as I mentioned. The cover has a strapping young man-child suited up for baseball and surrounded by cherry blossoms. Perfect image of Japanese mixed culture mindset. So here's an ad from Goodico, and they're pushing the fact that anybody can get one of these projectors if they send in enough proof of purchase seals. And this reminds me of the stamps my grandma used to collect from Raleigh cigarettes. She had a ton of booklets filled up with those stamps. She was always filling those booklets with stamps. I never knew what she was saving up for or what she actually got from those booklets, if she even ever sent in. But I'll tell you what she did win, though: lung cancer. Wow, I really missed the bejesus out of her. And now we have gimmicks. A fold-up airplane cutaway, right? Pretty cool. And hey, back then, there was no smoking section because it was all smoking. And there's Graham getting some more stamps. And there's Graham getting some more stamps. Boom, boom. On the back of this is a quiz to win more prizes, okay? The prizes include electric trains, projectors, hammers, bat-shaped fountain pens, and a Lincoln medal, which, I don't know, it's curious and amazing. Okay, and now we have the first comic, Gambari Ganchan. It says Suzuki manga instead of Rensai manga. Rensai manga means serialized comic. Suzuki means continuing. I don't really hear that term Suzuki manga much. Mostly hear Rensai these days. This is by Fukui Eiichi, and I've mentioned him before. If you've been watching the show in order, and why wouldn't you? He's been mentioned a few times as a contemporary of the Tens and is often vied with Tezuka for the top spot as most popular cartoonist. As you can see here, his comic is first and given the two-color treatment. And then we have, what do we got? So we got this story. Quite, there's a reason he was top of the pops. His art is just amazing. Here we have an ad for like a diarrhea medicine, diarrhea caused by like bugs in the stomach. And it's called Ass Kiss, Ass Kiss. And that, I think, is actually how you get bugs in the stomach, by kissing in. So not the best name for a diarrhea cream. Let's see what else we got. Okay, now here's the index printed off center somewhat, but it gives us a good look at the record that comes with this particular ish. And it came with a record and a needle, and then later on we're going to see directions on how to put together your own record player. Okay, there's 5 comics listed at least. We have a new one here, Tetsujin Atomo. Tetsujin. Now, that's curious, right? I did read that it was originally going to be called Tetsujin Atomo, Iron Man Atomu, but they changed it at the last minute to Tetsuwan, which is strength of iron, Atomu. So kind of pulling away focus that he's made of metal and kind of pushing that human aspect, which we talked about. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. And for pencils, sport, fold on sports pictures, Fusion! Panasonic battery before it was Panasonic. Okay, this is Mitsuri no Bokenji, Adventure Boy at the Secret Forest, drawn by Komatsuzaki Shigeru, who I just mentioned, and written by Shiraki Shigeru. Komatsuzaki was a master of the illustrated story, which we call in Japanese, e monogatari. Monogatari, story, e picture. There you go. So Komatsuzaki was one of the most important illustrators of sashie. Sashie are the illustrations you put with text. So illustrations for stories. He influenced all the big manga creators, from Fujiko Fujio and Ishinomori to Kawasaki Noboru and Matsumoto Reiji. He later switched to painting plastic model kit box art, and it is said that if he painted the box art, the model would sell like crazy. And as you can see, he was an excellent draftsman. Okay, next up we have Mei Tante Shou-chan. Mei Tante Shou-chan. Still number 4, I see. This is by Onodera Shufu. So Mei Tante, famous detective Shou-chan. Notice the pink pages. We see this a lot in the current magazines where the page will change color. It's become, you know what? I never looked into the significance of the page color changes. I know that originally it had something to do with paper shortages, but I don't know what function it serves now. It's something that I could look into. So Onodera had several popular series. Okay, here's a Furoku double shot from Shōnen's sister mag called, guess what, Shoujo, with Onodera's Meitante Tanchan, famous detective Tanchan. Boy, he really knew how to make a title, didn't he? Along with Takano Yoshiteru's Hokuro-chan, because she had a distinctive mole, which is called Hokuro. Japanese have a proclivity for taking something that they might often be embarrassed about and turning it into a so-called charm point, like taxicab ears or raised incisors that looked like fangs, and I like that kind of positivity. So anyway, it's got a Shōchan no Boken vibe because of the combination of distinctive headwear and the red squirrel. This chapter is called Henso no Dokuro Kaijin, the White Skull Phantom in Disguise. And of course, you have this old man who changes into different disguise and falls down a hole. So, what else we got? Got an article on Home Run King Ralph Kiner, who had his own US comic in 1950. We have an Edogawa Ranpo story, The Man with 40 Faces, or the Phantom with 40 Faces. One of those faces being a mailbox, apparently. Then we have, let's see, coming up here. And I like this. Okay, these are pages where kids write in and basically brag about their school. It's kind of hard to imagine this kind of thing happening these days, and it's too bad that you can't have school pride these days. Everybody's so jaded. And now we have a heartwarming story about an orphan kid named Takeshi who got a bell from an American sailor, this guy named John, that he had befriended. He called him Uncle John, and really is a little nice heartwarming story between Japanese orphan and so it's an actual true story, that being the orphan and his friends. Okay. This is another fold out thing. So this is an ad for the next issue, which comes with basically a stereoscope or a Viewmaster. Only 6 slides though, but a Viewmaster. And this notebook, I'm not sure if you can send away for it or it was actually included, but quite a cool thing. They had the coolest stuff, coolest giveaways. If you ever look at old radio show giveaways, they're always like awesome stuff that you would not get today as a free giveaway. Here's an ad for the next issue, the May issue. Looks quite thick itself. And there it is again, Tetsujin Atomo. And believe me, this is not Tezuka art here, but interesting. Tetsujin Atomo. Then we have another adventure story. This is actually a teacher talking to actual kids about Papua New Guinea. Then we have some stories about getting rid of pesky crows. which, boy, when I lived in Tokyo, I sure needed that. Apparently the answer is, don't hold your breath, but the answer coming up may shock you. Ninjas. No, it's just the kids dressed in black, but scaring away the crows. Or maybe they're losing. I'm not sure. Finally, here it is. In blue and white. Tetsujin Atomo. But no, it's not Iron Man Atomo. It's Tetsuwan Atomu. Iron Strength, or Iron Arm Atomu. It says here, newly begun science comic Tetsuwan Atomu. You'll notice that Atomu still has basically the Felix the Cat ears, which still adhere to normal physical laws, unlike the spikes he'll later get, which change angle in every panel. In this story, schoolboy Adam is awarded a prize for being valedictorian. You can see Higio Yaji here among the staff, and here's Tamao, his friend, showing off Adam's report card. And then there's some kids who are not so excited about their own report cards, and so dump Adam's report card into this incinerator. Adam dives in, and all his clothes are burnt off. Of course, he also loses the report card. And the bully kind of points at him and laughs at him and says, "You don't have anyone to show it to anyway. You've got no parent. Ooh, orphan burn." Then he says, "Adam has a patchwork body, yeah, and runs off. Robot burn." A roburn, if you will. So now he's at Tamao's place, and Tamao's mom is asking if Adam eats or not. And Adam replies that Adam does eat. Tamao replies that Adam does eat. Now, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of how many times a conscientious Japanese host has fretted over what to feed me. Can you eat this or that? I might be asked. And I appreciate the question because though I will eat what's put in front of me, I have manners, you see. I prefer not to have to eat mentaiko, okra, or natto. I don't want pineapple or corn on my pizza, and please don't get ketchup anywhere near my eggs. Okay, then the mom asks Tama about his grades, and he says, "I got 8 out of 10 in PE and arts and crafts." And she says, "What about the other subjects?" And he says, "I got 8 in PE and arts and crafts." And he apparently got 4s and 5s and everything else. So Adam sees Tama. Where am I? Adam sees Tama and his mom, and he gets lonely. And Tama sees this there. And so he goes and asks Professor Ochanomizu to get Adam some robot parents. All right. So at the robot factory, the guy says they mostly get requests for maids and butlers, servants, of course, but not parents. Making parents is much harder, he says. The prof picks the faces, and the one he picks for Adam's mom, he comments, is just like his wife who has passed away. So that's some backstory that I never knew about. I didn't know that Ochanomizu was previously married or that his wife had died. So from the speech and actions, so after he puts the masks on and everything, but he realizes that he says, "Oh no, I got the masks on wrong," but actually it's the programming that is backwards. One is acting like a male, the other one is acting as a female. Notice that the faces are called masks. That's interesting. Okay. So anyway, they're back to what he expected them to be. Adam comes home and he meets his parents for the first time, and he's giving them a big hug, and they're loving on him. And apparently the way they love on him is pretty rough. And Ochanomizu complains, they're giving him oil and stuff, and Ochanomizu is saying, that's not how you take care of a kid. And they remind him strongly that robots have their own way of taking care of their kids. You can see him here being flipped upside down, and Ochanomizu feeling chastised, learning a lesson. But actually, Atomo is talking to his teacher, Mr. Higeoyaji here, and telling him he doesn't think he's a good fit with these parents. They're not a good fit for him because they're a little bit too robotic. And the parents, who, from my point of view, in a pretty humanistic way, they also worry about why their son hasn't taken to them. So Higeoyaji realizes, yes, they are a bit robotic, and he has figured out a solution. They've just been created. They're even younger than their own son, and so they just need some knowledge. So Adam gets a big surprise when the new school year starts, which happens to coincide with this back-to-school issue, and his parents are among the new students. What we see here is that what Adam needs is not the wisdom and experience of parents, as he gets that from Ochanomizu and Higeoyaji, but the care and affection of a parent's love. So, pretty interesting introduction to the new Adam, who is basically a human boy with human needs and a robot body. We already see hints that in this world, robots are automatically second-class citizens, mostly used as servants. And this sets up one of the major themes of the whole series. And yet, this is not a chapter that we want to run across in most Adam collections. Almost all collections start with the Tobio gets hit by a car story. Okay, so Tenma probably wasn't around enough to teach him good driving skills because he was always doing science and such. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Let's zip through. We have science. We were just talking about science, and there we have science. Lots of good science. This is about flight, Wright brothers, and activities. Are you starting to recognize a similar style across these pages, this kind of eyes? Not exactly what we would call the Tezuka style, right? It's the bodies are more realistic. They're not rubber band, and the faces are quite distinctive. So next we have Circus Taro. If you don't know, Taro is basically John, Jack, or Joe, an everyman kind of name. Where we use John or Jane Doe, they use Yamada Taro or Hanako for those. So this is an adventure comic by Wada Yoshizo from Urawa, Saitama. At least that's where she died, originally from Tokyo. He was in the Manga Shudan, which was a manga group with Yokoyama Ryuichi and other mangaka. Now, from what I know, a lot of great creative leaps in comics occur whenever a bunch of different creators get together, put their heads together, and start exploring the possibilities of manga. So that's a group which I don't know much about, something hopefully I can look into in the future. The animals here are great. Look at that dynamism. I love it. I love her pose too. Very dynamic. Oh, I'm sorry, his pose. He's wearing a hat, not a ponytail. Didn't mean to pre-gender you, buddy. So, but this is basically about the evil tiger and the fox that are egging on these bad guys to kill Taro and his jaguar lock. But this is 1952. I've been looking at a lot of art in the Kashihon like 1957, 1958, 1959, and it's apparent that, there were great cartoonists already around and doing lots of work, but they were in the big time, publishing in the monthly magazine. So this is where you find them. So it's Kashihon where all the new kids got their start, were able to cut their teeth on that stuff. Okay, we have weird news of the world and another story, illustrated story with adventure and danger. Lots of danger. Gotta have that danger. And then we have an article about records, how records are made. It's actually a quite fascinating thing, record player. And I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay, no, I'm right. Okay, so there's an article about records, and then we have another adventure story, mystery story. I'm gonna zoom through this. Okay, this is a segment where kids can send in questions and they have a famous TV personality answer. And here's the exciting one. This is Ghost Corral. And it's a Western. And basically what we see here is Geronimo and Sitting Bull. And that looks like Annie Oakley movie version to me. And Geronimo and Sitting Bull basically fight each other. So I don't know what this story is based on. I don't know enough about Western lit, but ads for harmonicas and a little reader section with puzzles, activities, games, etc. Science articles about birds and the sun. Man, the sun is cool, isn't he? Finally, instructions on how to put together and use your free record player. Look at all these complicated instructions. None of this namby-pamby fit tab A into slot B bullcrap. They make you work for your fun in this mag. All right, activities, sports, a legend featuring wizards fighting Oni, and there's wizards fighting Oni. Okay, and a relay comic, this is a curious thing. A relay comic. It's on. This means that a different person drew each page. So one person drew the one comic, another person continued it. I don't know who these people are. I don't recognize any of the names. There's another strip at the bottom by Ito Takao called Ie ga Hoshii, I Want a House. The relay adventure comic, Rirei Boken Manga, Nazo no Chizu, The Mysterious Map. So you've got the boy, the dog, and the bad guy. And here we got a cliffhanger. And somehow they were able to, oh, nope, they fell into the water, crawled out, and then they had to go through this puzzle, solve this puzzle, go through this maze. The bad guy's got the map. He's like, nye, nye. And then somehow at the end, he's fallen into a coal chute, and the boy's got the map, and we don't know. Okay, and now we have a story of samurai versus the dread Pirate Roberts, obviously. Samurai and Dread Pirate Roberts facing off. Wonder who will win. Looks like Samurai's still intact. Looks like everybody's doing okay. Not sure what that story's about, but it looks pretty cool. And then another ad for next month's mag, including an explanation of how to order the mag directly when your bookshop doesn't carry it. There's an ad for Colleen pencils and Yamaha harmonicas. So something about pencils and harmonicas, things I guess that they used in school. An ad on the back for Morinaga Milk Caramel. Morinaga continued to be an important sponsor of comic magazines. Phew, that's it. Man, I thought I was just going to zoom through this app, and nope, did not work out that way. Sure had fun, learned quite a bit looking through these amazing artifacts, and I really have to once again show my appreciation to Mr. Fujita for allowing me access to his treasures. A final note about Shōnen. The magazine really took off once it started adding more comics. 3 years later, in 1955, it would be host to big atom rival Yokoyama Mitsuteru's Tetsujin 28 Iron Man number 28, or Gigantor in the States, alongside Atom. And some years later, Shōnen would have Shirato Sanpei's Sasuke, Sekiya Hisashi's Stop Nii-chan, Fujiko Fujio as Hattori-kun, and would allow Shōnen to steal the top spot from Shōnen Gaho. So thanks so much if you made it all the way to the end. I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and share, and consider subscribing if this is your thing. Also, let me know in the comments what you thought of the video and what you'd like to see more of. If you want some more extra content, consider following the @_GAIJINGUY_ Instagram and Twitter. Links below. See you in the funny pages.